who's going to make or miss the playoffs this year. And we've all come to the table with a couple different plays on our or teams that we like. And these are plus money to make or miss the playoffs. So obviously we're not taking the Eagles to make the playoffs. That would be stupid. But plus money bets to make or miss the playoffs. You want to start us off?
Sure. I went 3 yes to make at plus price and 3 no to miss at plus price. Let me start with the first team that I wrote down, and that was Minnesota. Very small dog, I know, but there's still a plus sign next to it. BetMGM does a really nice job, groups all of these teams together, alphabetical order by city. So if you go to the BetMGM app, Arizona, Atlanta, Baltimore, down the board. Very easy to follow, very easy to bet. I went Minnesota. I think there's a good chance that they are the most well-coached team and the most well-rounded team in this division, the NFC North. Do I have concerns about the quarterback? Of course. He's a rookie, but also not a traditional rookie. He was around the team all last year, J.J. McCarthy, went in the first round of the 2024 NFL draft and had an injury. So, sure, he didn't play, but he was in that building. And Kevin O'Connell's been able to work with him, scheme with him, build with him. If that's the weakest link and he performs like he has throughout his entire football career, going back to high school at Nazareth in LaGrange, Illinois, going through to Michigan, winning a national title, some guys just know how to win and know how to protect the football. So if all of those things come true that I just alluded to, I think Minnesota at plus 105 is a very good bet. I have 2 other teams that have bigger prices, but if I had a draft on taking a plus price to either make or miss, my first pick would be Minnesota.
Sam, number 1 on my list, the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah,
I completely agree with you. Yeah, that was the kind of the no-brainer one I wrote down. And yeah, only plus 115, but all we said was plus money. You talk about J.J. McCarthy, all the points you just made, Kevin O'Connell, but also like the defense was pretty good last year. Brian Flores' defense, they're returning most of that defense. You have Kristen Darrisaw, who's going to return this season, injured last year. Talk about the skill player. Like the Vikings just have a lot going for them, and they're just a solid they have a great foundation in that organization. It's not like the Bears, who are kind of all over the place, or at least up until Ben Johnson a couple months ago were. So I love the Vikings to make the playoffs at plus 115. Another one that I had on my list is the Arizona Cardinals to make the playoffs. Now, I know they're playing in a division with the 49ers, who have the easiest schedule in the NFL, or one of the easiest, and a lot of people think they're going to win that division. The Rams are also tricky in that division, but I feel like this is kind of like the turning point for the Cardinals. As long as they don't unravel late in the season like they have the last couple of years, Kyler Murray positioned very well to have success this year with the pieces around him, and Jonathan Gannon in what's this, year 3 now. This is an organization that I think is ready to kind of make that turn and be a legit competitor this year. So plus 140 on the Cardinals. I like them to make the playoffs.
And if you need the Cardinals to make, odds are good you probably would look toward the Rams to miss. And I think that's going to be an interesting play. We all know that McVay and Stafford are a sensational combo, quarterback and head coach. Their defense looked pretty strong down the stretch last year, but look, Father Time is undefeated, and Matt Stafford has found himself on the injury list a ton. So I don't know that I would ever lay minus 180 on the Rams to make the playoffs. Now, you could do it a different way. You could bet them to win the division at plus money, but then that removes the wild card possibility of this bet, because this bet, playoff market gives you all 7 seeds. We understand that. I would not be laying $1.80 on LA Rams playoffs. I would lean toward the no, and I think anybody rooting for the Cardinals to make would need either the Rams or the Niners to take a step back or not make the playoffs. In the NFC South, I went no on Tampa Bay. That's plus a quarter. Yeah, I'm a little bit higher on the Falcons. But I don't really want to bet the Falcons. I'd rather bet against the Bucs. Baker Mayfield's had a very up and down career. And I think it's easy to look at what they did last year and think, oh, well, they'll repeat that. And I'm not so sure. Now, I'm a big fan of their running back room with Bucky Irving and Rashad White, bringing in Ibuka, the receiver from Ohio State. I like that move as well. But we've already seen the issues health-wise. Mike Evans last year gets hurt. Chris Godwin last year gets hurt. Can these guys all stay on the field? And Mayfield, say what you want. Baker's had a nice little rejuvenation in his career, but this is still a quarterback at the end of the day. All time is 50-53 as a starter. So now you got to lay $1.50, $1.55 to make. Nah, I would just pray for chaos and pray for the Falcons to be better. Maybe the Carolina Panthers win the NFC South. Maybe Tyler Shook is the answer in New Orleans. No, I'm going to stop there. Rewind. Edit that out. I'm not putting Tampa in the playoffs. I would bet them no, and you can get plus 125 on Tampa to miss.
So kind of correlated with that on my list, I have the Panthers to make the playoffs at 3-1 as a higher, a larger payout plus money bet because of the chaos that could ensue in that division. You're right. The Saints are a mess of their own. Tyler Shuck's not leading them to the promised land, but you don't know what you're going to get in a full season with Michael Penix. And then you just laid out all the points for the Bucs to potentially miss the playoffs. Carolina, if they can build on the momentum that Bryce Young showed in the latter half of the season last year, another year with that head coach, Dave Canales and Bryce duo, and then you bring in a couple other pieces to add to that offense. I mean, it's 3-1 for a reason to make the playoffs, but I think in that division and the AFC South, those two South divisions are where we could see the most chaos. And so maybe there's some value on some longer shots there. Paul, do you want to jump in, Jake, and share some of your thoughts?
I don't know if this is good or terrible. Make the playoffs. I have Cardinals, Panthers, and Cowboys at 2-1. Yeah, we talked about a couple weeks ago, Kate, what is it? Since 2004, there's been a new champ in that division every year. So, again, I think, and we've talked about this, Joe, Sam, and I, and the rest of the group, do we fade the Commanders in year 2, or is it just if we're going to, but they could still be really good and win the division. So it's tougher for me to get there on the Cowboys to win the division, but to make the playoffs, they got a lot of weapons. I think that's intriguing at plus 200, especially the way that division plays out on a year-to-year basis. And if we get the best of Dak, a couple top targets for him as well. And then the misses, I have the Bucs, Panthers case kind of there. I have the Rams written down as well, and their schedule at the Texans, Titans should be a win. Eagles, defending champs, Colts should be a win. At the Niners, Ravens, they could start 2-4, and then kind of who knows after that. And the other one I have is Bengals. How did their defense get better at plus 145? Yeah. So those are, what do you got, Jake?
I can't believe I'm doing this, but somebody has to on this show. Jaguars to make the playoffs, plus 165 at MGM. Apparently, I was going to say, apparently Paul gave me the cheese touch. Listen, I'm just betting on that this is the year for Lawrence, new head coach bounce, Hunter with Brian Thomas Jr. And also we talked about AFC South. Conversely, Texans to miss the playoffs at it's not a great price, it's plus 110, but if I think that the Jaguars can ascend here, Paul infected my brain. I don't feel great about it.
I have Jaguars on my list.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
On my list, so we're crazy together.
I thought you were going to say Bears.
No, Bears are going 8-9. The Bears are going 8-9, and the city's going to burn, and it's just going to be so stupid.
Caleb's putting his left foot forward now, guys. Everything's going to be different.
Awesome.
This year.
It's fixed.
Yeah,
it's fixed.
He's 1,000 for 500 at training camp with 73 touchdowns and no interceptions.
They're breaking the huddle, Kate.